AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role and told me I was being selfish. I, 29F, have always been the reliable sibling in my family. I'm the one who shows up early, stays late, and smooths things over when tensions flare. My younger sister, Lily, 26F, has always been more impulsive and charismatic. Growing up, it was an unspoken rule that I adjusted to her moods and plans. I didn't mind most of the time because I love her and because keeping the peace felt easier than pushing back. When Lily got engaged last year, she asked me to be her maid of honor. I was genuinely touched. She told me she wanted me by her side because I was her rock and because she trusted me to handle things when she got overwhelmed. I accepted immediately. Over the next several months, I helped with everything: venue tours, vendor calls, dress shopping, DIY centerpieces, and managing family group chats that constantly threatened to explode. I used vacation days to attend appointments with her and paid out of pocket for some decor she fell in love with when the budget got tight. I didn't keep track of receipts because I thought this was just what you do for someone you love. Things started to shift about 2 months ago. Lily became more stressed and snappy, which I understood. But she also started second-guessing my decisions and blaming me for minor issues, like a florist misunderstanding that she herself had caused. I apologized anyway and kept going. Then, out of nowhere, she told me she was thinking of making her best friend from college, Marcy, the maid of honor instead, because Marcy was more fun and less serious. Lily framed it as wanting 2 maids of honor, but it was clear Marcy would be the main one and I'd be demoted to something vague. I was hurt, but tried to be calm. I told Lily that I was okay stepping back if that's what she wanted, but I needed to know what my responsibilities would be because I was juggling work deadlines. She brushed me off and said I was overthinking it. A week later, she sent out a revised bridal party list in a group chat that labeled Marcy as maid of honor and me as a regular bridesmaid. No conversation, no warning, just done. I called Lily and told her that being reassigned without a discussion hurt me deeply. She said I was making her wedding about myself and accused me of trying to guilt her. She also said that since I was so organized, I could still handle the logistics, even if I wasn't maid of honor anymore. That's when something in me snapped. I realized she wanted the labor without the role or respect. I told her I wasn't comfortable continuing in that capacity and that I needed some space to think. A few days later, Lily called again, crying. She said she was overwhelmed and needed me, and that family should support each other no matter what. I said I was willing to attend the wedding as a guest, but I didn't want to be in the bridal party at all. I explained that it hurt too much to be sidelined after investing so much time and money. She went silent, then told me if I didn't stand up with her, it would ruin her vision and people would ask questions. I said I couldn't prioritize optics over my own feelings anymore. That's when my parents got involved. My mom called and said I was being dramatic and that weddings make brides act crazy, but it's temporary. My dad said I should just take the high road and that I'd regret missing my sister's big day. Meanwhile, Lily texted me long messages saying I was abandoning her, that I was jealous of Marcy, and that I always had to be the victim. I tried to respond calmly, but every message made me feel smaller and more exhausted. After a sleepless night, I told Lily I wouldn't attend a wedding at all. I said I loved her, but I needed to step away from a dynamic where my efforts were expected and my feelings dismissed. She replied with, "Wow, I can't believe you'd do this to me," and blocked me. Since then, relatives have reached out saying I'm tearing the family apart and that I should just suck it up for one day. Part of me feels guilty because I know weddings are emotional and I don't want to cause lasting damage. Another part of me feels like if I go, I'm teaching everyone that my boundaries don't matter and that I'll always fold. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering if I overreacted or if this was the only way to finally stand up for myself. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role and expected me to keep doing the work anyway. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to give my sister the house I inherited and causing a family meltdown. I am 34F. My sister Lily is 31F. Our parents divorced when we were teenagers, and our dad died 6 years ago. Our mom passed away last year after a long illness. This whole situation revolves around the house my mom left behind. Some background. Growing up, Lily was the golden child. She was outgoing, charming, and always needed help. I was the quiet, responsible one. I got a scholarship, worked part-time, and moved out at 18. Lily stayed home through college, changed majors 3 times, and needed financial help well in her mid-20s. Our mom loved us both, but it was obvious who she worried about more. When I was 22, I moved back briefly to help our mom after surgery. That turned into me staying for almost 4 years. I paid rent, covered groceries, handled repairs, and eventually became her primary caregiver when her health declined. Lily visited on holidays, sometimes canceled last minute, and always had reasons. New job, new boyfriend, burnout, you name it. I do not say this to shame her, just to explain the reality. Before Mom died, she updated her will. She left me the house outright. Lily got the remainder of her savings, which was not insignificant, but less than the value of the house. Mom explained her reasoning to me very clearly. She said I'd already been maintaining the house for years, I understood its issues, and she wanted me to have stability. She also said Lily was more likely to sell it quickly or lose it due to poor planning. Those were her words, not mine. After the funeral, Lily found out about the will and lost it. She accused me of manipulating Mom, of poisoning her against Lily, of being greedy. She said the house should have been split or sold and the money divided equally. I told her I did not write the will and I did not pressure Mom. That did not help. Here is where it gets messy, eh? Lily has 2 kids and is currently renting a small apartment. She says the house should be hers because she needs it more. She wants to move in, raise her kids there, and keep it in the family. She proposed that I sign the house over to her. She would maybe pay me back later when she could. No contract, no timeline, just trust. I refused. I plan to live in the house. I already put money into fixing the roof and updating the plumbing. I also gave up years of career growth to help our mom, something Lily never acknowledges. I told Lily she could have stayed and helped too, but she chose not to. Now the family is divided. My aunt says I'm heartless for not thinking about the kids. A cousin told me I'm technically right, but morally wrong. Lily has stopped speaking to me and told people I stole her inheritance. I have been excluded from family events. I feel like I'm being punished for being responsible. I offered a compromise. I told Lily she could stay in the house temporarily while she gets back on her feet, paying a small amount for utilities only. She rejected it, saying it would make her feel like a charity case in her own childhood home. She insists the only fair solution is for me to give her the house or sell it and split the money. I am exhausted. I love my mom. I miss her. This house is full of memories, but also years of work and sacrifice. I did not ask to be the executor of everyone's feelings. I am starting to doubt myself because so many people say family should come first, especially when kids are involved. At the same time, I feel like if I give in, I will be giving up my future and enabling the same patterns that have existed our whole lives. So AITA for keeping the house my mom left me and refusing to give it to my sister, even though she has kids and less stability. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned the role she promised me for years. I'm 29F. My sister Lena is 32F. Growing up, it was always just the 2 of us, and while we fought like siblings do, we were close in a way that felt unbreakable. When we were teenagers, she used to joke that I'd be her maid of honor one day and that I'd give some embarrassing speech about her obsession with planners and color-coding her life. Over the years, that stopped being a joke and became something she talked about seriously. Every time she dated someone new, she'd say, "If this is the one, you're standing next to me." I never pushed for it, but I believed her. 3 years ago, Lena met Mark, and last summer he proposed. The same day she told me, she hugged me and said, "Obviously, you're my maid of honor." She even asked me to help her plan, said she trusted me more than anyone else, and wanted this to be something we did together. I rearranged my work schedule to help, went to bridal expos with her, made spreadsheets, and handled a lot of the early planning because she said it stressed her out. I paid for deposits up front with the understanding she'd pay me back, which she did, but it still meant tying up my savings for months. About 6 months into planning, her college best friend Jess moved back to town. They hadn't been close for years, but suddenly Jess was everywhere. At first I didn't think much of it. Then Lena started saying things like, Jess just gets weddings and Jess has better taste with aesthetics. I felt sidelined, but told myself I was being sensitive. 2 months ago, Lena sat me down and said she wanted Jess to be maid of honor instead, but that I'd still be really important and could do a reading. She said it was nothing personal and that I should understand because weddings are stressful. I was honestly stunned. I asked her why she hadn't said anything earlier and why she let me do so much planning if she felt this way. She said I was being dramatic and that roles don't matter as much as I think. I told her they clearly mattered to her, or she wouldn't have changed them. She accused me of making her wedding about me and said I should be happy for her instead of fixating on titles. I told her it wasn't just a title. It was years of promises and the fact that I felt replaced without warning. After that conversation, she slowly stopped including me in planning entirely. Jess took over everything I'd been doing, including ideas I originally suggested. I was still expected to attend showers, help set up, and pay for my dress, but I felt like an extra in a production I helped build. The final straw came when Lena asked me if I could help wrangle vendors on the wedding day because Jess gets overwhelmed easily. That meant I'd basically be unpaid staff while watching someone else stand in the place I was promised. I told her I couldn't do it anymore and that I wasn't comfortable attending the wedding at all. I said it hurt too much and that I needed space. She cried and told me I was ruining one of the most important days of her life. Our parents got involved and said I was being selfish, that family should show up no matter what, and that I could deal with my feelings later. Some friends agree with them and say I'm punishing her over something trivial. Others say she used me and discarded me when something shinier came along. Now the wedding is in 2 months, and I'm still not planning to go. I miss my sister, but I also feel deeply disrespected and taken for granted. I keep wondering if I'm standing my ground or if I'm letting pride blow up a relationship I can't get back. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she replaced me as maid of honor. AITA for telling my sister I will not fix the mess she created even if it ruins her wedding. I am 32F and my younger sister is 28F. Growing up, she was always the golden child. Not in an exaggerated movie way, but in a quiet, constant way where expectations were different. If I messed up, it was a lesson. If she messed up, it was a phase. I learned early to be the reliable one, the fixer, the person everyone called when something went wrong. I moved out at 18, paid my own way through college, and now I work as an event logistics manager. I plan conferences, fundraisers, and corporate retreats for a living. This is important. My sister is getting married in 3 months. From the moment she got engaged, my family decided I would be helping, which very quickly turned into handling everything complicated. I try to set boundaries early. I told her I was happy to give advice, recommend vendors, and help on a day of, but I did not want to be the unofficial wedding planner. She laughed and said I was being dramatic and that she just wanted her big sister involved. At first, it was small things. She asked me to review contracts before she signed them. Then she asked me to negotiate with the venue because she hates confrontation. Then she wanted me to redesign the seating plan because she didn't like how it looked. I kept telling myself this was temporary and that family helps family. The real problem started with the venue. She booked a beautiful historic space that had strict noise, capacity, and end-time rules. I warned her very clearly multiple times that the rules were non-negotiable and that if she wanted a DJ and dancing past 10 p.m., this was not the right place. She said she understood and signed anyway. 2 weeks later, she told me she had hired a DJ who promised to work something out. I told her that was not how permits work. She told me I was being negative. Last month, everything blew up. The venue manager emailed her saying they had received her final event plan and that it violated multiple terms of the contract. They would allow the event only if she cut the guest list by 40 people, ended music at 9:30, and paid a large additional security deposit. She panicked and called me crying, saying the wedding was ruined and that I had to fix it because this is what I do. Something in me just snapped. I looked at the emails and realized she had been telling vendors that I was the planner and that all final decisions went through me. She had ignored my warnings, overridden my advice, and then positioned me as the responsible party when it fell apart. I told her calmly that I would not be fixing it. I explained that this situation existed because she did not listen and that it was not my job to rescue her from the consequences. I offered to help her brainstorm options if she wanted to change venues or adjust expectations, but I would not be making calls, negotiating, or taking responsibility. She lost it. She said I was selfish, that I was trying to punish her, and that any good sister would step up. My parents got involved immediately. My mom said I was being cruel and that this was not the time to teach lessons. My dad said I should just handle it because I have the skills and it would be easier for everyone. I pointed out that easier for everyone meant harder for me. I would be doing unpaid labor, absorbing stress, and likely being blamed if anything else went wrong. I reminded them that I tried to set boundaries and had been ignored. My mom said boundaries are a therapy word and that family shouldn't need them. Now my sister is barely speaking to me except to send long messages about how I'm ruining the happiest time of her life. She says people are already booking travel and that if she has to change plans, everyone will blame her and she will look stupid. She also told me that if I really loved her, I would prove it by fixing this one last thing. I feel guilty because I know I could probably smooth this over. I could call the venue, negotiate, find loopholes, maybe even find a last-minute replacement location. This is literally my job, but I also feel angry and tired and used. For once, I want to not be the person who sacrifices their peace so everyone else can pretend nothing went wrong. Some family members are now saying I am power tripping and holding my expertise over her head. Others say I'm right, but should still help because weddings are emotional. I am starting to doubt myself, especially when I imagine her wedding day being tense or disappointing and knowing I could have prevented it. So, AITA for refusing to fix the wedding problems my sister created, even though I have the skills to do it, and she's begging me to step in. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she reassigned my role at the last minute. AITA, 29F, have always been close to my younger sister, Maya, 26F. Growing up, it was basically the two of us against the world. Our parents worked long hours, and I was the built-in babysitter, homework helper, and emergency contact. I didn't resent it. If anything, I was proud that she trusted me and leaned on me. Because of that history, when Maya got engaged last year, I was genuinely thrilled for her. When she asked me to be her maid of honor, I cried. Not the cute single tear kind either. Full-on ugly cry in my car. She told me it had to be me because I knew her best and kept her grounded. I took the role seriously. I helped her tour venues, addressed invitations, mediated arguments between her and our mom, and organized her bachelorette weekend. I paid out of pocket for decorations and activities because I wanted it to be special and didn't want to stress her about money. The first sign of trouble was subtle. About 3 months before the wedding, Maya started deferring more to her fiancé's sister, Claire, 32F. Claire lives out of state and hadn't been very involved until then, but suddenly her opinions mattered more. Dress fittings were rescheduled around Claire's flights. Decisions I'd already helped finalize were reopened because Claire had a different vision. It stung, but I told myself weddings are stressful and try to be flexible. Then came the bridal shower. I had planned it with 2 of Maya's friends. The night before, Maya called me in tears, saying Claire felt left out and thought the shower didn't reflect the couple's vibe. Maya asked if we could make changes last minute. I stayed up until 3 a.m. rearranging things and running to a 24-hour store for new supplies. Claire arrived late the next day, barely acknowledged me, and spent most of the event pointing out what she would have done differently. 2 weeks before the wedding, Maya asked to meet me for coffee. I assumed it was to vent or go over final details. Instead, she looked extremely nervous and told me she had something awkward to discuss. She said that after a lot of thought, She and her fiancé decided Claire would be a better maid of honor because she was more assertive and would balance things out with the groomsmen. Maya said she still wanted me in the wedding party, just as a regular bridesmaid, and hoped I'd understand. I didn't say much in the moment. I think I was in shock. She kept talking, explaining how titles didn't matter and how I was still so important. I nodded, paid for my coffee, and left. When I got home, I cried harder than I have in years. It wasn't just about the title. It felt like everything I'd done and everything we'd been through was suddenly replaceable. The next day, I texted Maya asking if we could talk again. I told her calmly that being demoted so close to the wedding hurt deeply and made me feel used. I said I needed space and wasn't sure I could participate at all. She panicked and accused me of making her wedding about me. She said real support meant swallowing my feelings for her big day. Our mom called and told me I was being dramatic and selfish, reminding me how much Maya looked up to me and how devastated she'd be if I wasn't there. Over the next week, the pressure increased. Family members texted me saying I was breaking my sister's heart. Maya sent long messages alternating between apologizing and guilt-tripping me, saying she couldn't believe I'd abandoned her over something so small. No one acknowledged the time, money, and emotional labor I'd already put in. It was all framed as me throwing a tantrum. I finally told Maya I wouldn't be attending the wedding at all. I said I loved her, but sitting there smiling while someone else stood in the role she'd asked me to take felt unbearable. I wished her happiness and said I'd be open to talking after the wedding. She responded with a single sentence. I never thought you'd hurt me like this. The wedding happened last weekend. I spent the day at home, turned off my phone, and tried not to imagine everything. Now the photos are everywhere. Maya looks happy. Claire is front and center in every shot. Part of me feels relieved I didn't go, and part of me feels like I may have permanently damaged my relationship with my sister. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she replaced me as maid of honor at the last minute. AITA for refusing to give my sister the family house key and blowing up a wedding dinner over it. AITA, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling. My sister Mara, 29F, has always been the free spirit. That's not an insult. It's how my parents described us our entire lives. I planned, save, and stay close. She bounced between cities, jobs, and relationships, always landing back home when something fell apart. I didn't mind most of the time, but it set the tone for how my family treats us. 2 years ago, my grandmother passed away and left me her small house. It wasn't a surprise. I was the one who visited her weekly, took her to appointments, and handled her finances at the end. Mara loved our grandma too, but she lived 3 states away and rarely visited. The will was clear. I got the house, Mara got some money and jewelry. My parents said it was fair and told me not to feel guilty. I moved into the house and poured my savings into fixing it up. New plumbing, roof repairs, refinished floors. I also started fostering senior dogs, something my grandma loved. The house became my safe place. I don't give out keys casually. Only my parents and my best friend have one, mostly for emergencies involving the dogs. Mara recently moved back after another breakup and is staying with our parents. She's also planning a small wedding in 6 months. Since she's stressed and short on space, my mom suggested Mara use my house during the day to get away and plan. I said she could visit when I'm home, but I wasn't comfortable giving her a key. I framed it as a boundary, not a punishment. That did not go over well. Mara accused me of hoarding the house and acting like it wasn't family property. She said Grandma would have wanted her to feel welcome there. I reminded her that she is welcome, just not unsupervised. She rolled her eyes and said I was being controlling and weird. Things simmered until last weekend, when we had a family dinner to celebrate her engagement. In front of everyone, including her fiancé, Mara announced that I had refused to give her the family house key and joked that I'd probably charge her rent to use the bathroom. People laughed awkwardly. I tried to change the subject, but my dad asked me directly why I was being so rigid. I explained, calmly at first, that it wasn't a family house, it was my home, that I had animals and personal things there, and that I have a right to privacy. My mom sighed loudly and said, "You've always been like this, turning love into rules. That stung. Mara then said that if I didn't trust her, maybe I shouldn't come to the wedding because she didn't want bad energy. That's when I snapped. I said that maybe if she had ever respected anyone else's space or effort, this wouldn't be an issue, and that inheriting money she blew through in a year didn't give her a claim to my home. The table went silent. Mara started crying and left. My parents said I humiliated her and turned her engagement dinner into a fight. Since then, my family has been split. Some relatives say I'm technically right, but emotionally cold. My parents want me to apologize and just give her the key to keep the peace, at least until the wedding. Mara has texted me saying I'm choosing a house over my own sister, that she'll remember this forever. I feel awful about how it came out, but I also feel like if I give in now, I'll never get my boundaries back. I don't think wanting privacy in my own home makes me heartless, but the way everyone reacted makes me wonder if I missed something obvious. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister a key and snapping at her in front of the family? AITA for refusing to hand over a house I legally own to my sister because it would be fairer to the family? I am 34F, married, no kids yet. My sister is 31F, married with 2 kids. This situation has blown up my entire family, and I honestly can't tell anymore if I'm being selfish or if everyone else has lost their minds. When our grandparents passed away 8 years ago, they left behind a small but well-kept 3-bedroom house in our hometown. It wasn't a surprise to anyone that they left it to me. I was extremely close to them, lived with them during college to help out when my grandfather got sick, and I handled most of their medical appointments and finances near the end. My sister lived in another state at the time and visited maybe once a year. There was no bad blood back then, just different lives. The will was very clear. The house was left to me outright. No shared ownership, no conditions. I paid the inheritance taxes, maintenance, and later the renovations entirely out of my own savings. For years, I rented it out at below-market rent to a family friend, and that income helped me pay off student loans. Eventually, my husband and I decided to move back to our hometown and live in a house ourselves. We sold our apartment, put more money into fixing the roof and plumbing, and turned one room into a home office. Fast forward to last year. My sister and her husband hit financial trouble. He lost his job, then took a lower-paying one. They were renting a house they could no longer afford. They asked if they could stay with us temporarily while they got back on their feet. I said yes, even though I knew it would be chaotic with 2 kids and both of us working from home. I genuinely wanted to help. What was supposed to be 3 months turned into 9. They paid no rent, contributed minimally to groceries, and slowly started treating the house like it was theirs. My sister redecorated the living room without asking, complained that my office should be the kids' playroom, and made comments like, well, this is basically the family house anyway. Things came to a head when my parents came over for dinner one night, and my sister announced that they were thinking of enrolling the kids in the local school because we're settled here now. I was stunned. After dinner, I pulled her aside and asked what she meant. She told me, very calmly, that it made the most sense for them to stay permanently and for me and my husband to figure something else out since we have 2 incomes and no kids. I laughed at first because I genuinely thought she was joking. She wasn't. Over the next week, she involved my parents, framing it as me hoarding a family asset while she struggled. My parents admitted they always thought it was unfair that I got the house at all and said my grandparents probably didn't realize how different our situations would be later. They suggested I sign the house over to my sister, or at least sell it and split the money. I said no. I said the house is legally mine. I invested years of money and labor into it, and I already helped by letting them live here rent-free. That's when everything exploded. My sister accused me of valuing property over my nieces. My mother cried and said she raised me better than this. My father said if I didn't do the right thing, he would never look at me the same. The worst part is that my sister started acting like I was a guest in my own home. She stopped asking before inviting people over. She told the kids I was being mean when I asked them not to draw on the walls. She even told a neighbor that they were in the process of taking over the house. I finally gave them a written notice to move out within 60 days. That turned the family against me completely. My parents refused to speak to me unless it's to pressure me to reconsider. Extended relatives have been messaging me, saying things like blood is thicker than water, and you can always buy another house. I feel awful because I love my nieces and I know my sister is stressed, but I also feel like I'm being bullied out of my own life. I didn't steal this house. I didn't trick anyone. I helped when I could, and now it feels like that generosity is being used against me. So AITA for refusing to give up my house and asking my sister's family to leave, even though it's caused such a massive family rift. AITA for refusing to hand over my late mother's recipe book and causing a family blowup. I am 34F. My mom passed away 3 years ago after a short illness, and her death hit me and my younger brother Leo 30M really hard. Our dad had died when we were kids, so it was always the three of us. Mom was not perfect, but she had this way of making ordinary things feel safe. One of those things was cooking. She kept a thick, beat-up recipe book where she wrote everything by hand, with notes in the margins like, too salty, don't do this again, or Leo ate 3 bowls. After she died, I packed up her apartment, and she had left the book on the kitchen table with my name written inside the cover. I assumed she wanted me to have it, and no one argued at the time. Fast forward to now. Leo is engaged to Maya 29F. I like Maya well enough. She is organized, confident, and very into hosting. She has always talked about wanting to blend families and traditions, which sounds nice, but sometimes feels intense. A few months ago, she came over for dinner and noticed a recipe book on my shelf. I showed it to her, and she got really excited, flipping through it and asking questions. I thought it was sweet, even if it made me a little emotional. Last month, Maya called me and asked if she could borrow the recipe book for a while. She said she wanted to recreate some of my mom's dishes for their engagement party as a way to honor her. I hesitated, but I said yes, on the condition that it was just a short loan and that she treated it carefully. The book is old and literally falling apart. She promised she would. 2 weeks went by, and I did not hear anything. Then I saw photos on social media from a dinner Maya hosted. In the pictures, I could clearly see my mom's recipe book on the counter, open, with sticky notes and highlighter marks all over the pages. My stomach dropped. I texted Maya and asked if she had written in the book. She replied cheerfully that she had made a few helpful annotations and added some modern tweaks, and that now the recipes were more usable for everyone. I told her that I was not okay with that and asked for the book back immediately. She seemed surprised and said she thought I would be happy the book was being improved and prepared to be passed down. When she returned it, several pages were stained, and there were notes in handwriting that was not my mom's. I cried harder than I expected to. Here is where things escalated. Leo called me and said Maya was devastated that I had reacted so strongly. He said the book was not just mine, that it was part of our shared family history, and that Maya was trying to make it a living tradition instead of a dusty relic. He suggested that maybe the best solution was for Maya to keep the book after the wedding, since she would be doing most of the family cooking and hosting. I said absolutely not. I told the mom had clearly left it to me, that I had trusted Maya and she had crossed a line, and that I did not want the book leaving my possession again. Leo accused me of gatekeeping mom's memory and said I was being selfish and territorial over something that should bring the family together. He also said mom would have loved Maya and wanted her to have it. Now the tension is spreading. My aunt called and said she understood why I was upset, but also said that traditions are meant to be shared and that refusing to let Maya use the book was creating unnecessary drama before the wedding. Maya has not spoken to me directly since, but I hear from Leo that she feels unwelcome and judged, and that this has put a cloud over their engagement. I feel torn. On one hand, I know it is just a book, and I do not want to be the reason my brother's relationship is strained. On the other hand, this book feels like one of the last tangible connections I have to my mom, and seeing someone else write in it felt like losing her all over again. I am now considering locking it away and scanning the pages to share copies instead, but Leo says that is a cold compromise and proves I care more about control than family. So AITA for refusing to give up my late mother's recipe book and insisting it stays with me, even if it causes long-term resentment. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he humiliated me in front of my friends. So, I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Clara, 25F. We grew up very tight-knit, and even as adults, we've maintained a pretty solid bond. That said, I have always had a very particular sense of what I consider acceptable behavior, especially in my home. I've hosted my friends, coworkers, and family numerous times, and I take pride in keeping my home organized, clean, and welcoming. Clara started dating her now fiancé, Mark, about a year ago. At first, I liked him well enough. He seemed charming, funny, and ambitious, but there were small red flags. For instance, he frequently made jokes at my expense, claiming they were just teasing, and sometimes took things a bit far in a group setting. I ignored most of it, hoping it was just his personality and that he would eventually understand my boundaries. The issue came to a head last month. I had organized a small gathering at my apartment for my closest friends to celebrate my recent promotion. I was excited because it was the first time I had hosted something since the promotion, and I wanted it to be perfect. I had planned everything meticulously from the decorations to the drinks, and I even cooked most of the food myself. Clara and Mark arrived about an hour after the party started. Initially, everything seemed fine. Clara was happy, Mark was talking to some of my friends, and I was feeling proud of how well the evening was going. Then, things started to go downhill. At some point, Mark decided to help me in the kitchen. I was plating hors d'oeuvres, and he started making comments about how I clearly overthink everything, and that these little finger foods aren't exactly Michelin star quality. My friend tried to laugh it off, but I could feel my face turning red. I told him to stop, and Clara stepped in to defend him, claiming he was just joking. It got worse. Later, he moved into the living room and began loudly commenting on my apartment, saying things like, "Wow, I didn't realize your taste in furniture screams trying too hard, and these shelves are adorable but not very practical, huh?" My friends were visibly uncomfortable, and some of them exchanged awkward glances. I finally lost my patience and told him firmly that if he didn't have anything nice to say, he should leave. At that point, Clara tried to mediate but ended up blaming me, saying I was too sensitive and taking things the wrong way. The final straw came when he made a joke about my job. I work in marketing and have been putting in extra hours to climb the ladder. Mark loudly said, "Marketing, huh? So basically, you spend your life making people want stuff they don't need. That must be thrilling." My friends laughed nervously, and I just felt humiliated. I told him to leave immediately, and Clara ended up storming out with him, saying I had ruined the night for everyone. After the party, Clara called me crying and insisting that I had overreacted. She said that Mark was just being playful and that I shouldn't take things so seriously. I reminded her that he publicly embarrassed me in front of people I care about and that his behavior was unacceptable in my home. I told her I didn't want him staying over at my place ever again, and she seemed shocked, saying that I was being unfair and that he was family now. Since then, she has been pressuring me, saying things like, "You're going to have to get over it eventually if we're going to have a good relationship, and Mark is part of the family. You can't treat him like an outsider." I have explained multiple times that I'm happy to have her over, but I will not tolerate someone who disrespects me and humiliates me in my own home. She has accused me of being controlling and said I'm choosing her fiancé over her, which isn't the case. I just want respect and boundaries. I haven't spoken to Clara for a week because I feel hurt and unsupported. I love my sister, but I also feel like my home is my sanctuary, and nobody should make me feel small or embarrassed in it. Friends I've confided in are split. Some think I was right to stand my ground, and others think I overreacted and should let Mark stay to avoid conflict. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he humiliated me in front of my friends? I feel like I'm justified, but the guilt from my sister's reaction is eating at me. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she deliberately excluded my family? I, 32F, have a sister, Clara, 29F, who I've always had a complicated relationship with. We grew up in a small, close-knit town where everyone knew everyone, and our parents were very involved in both our lives. Clara and I were close in childhood, but as teenagers, things became tense. She was extremely competitive, and even small achievements of mine seemed to bother her. I always try to brush it off, but it set the tone for our adult relationship. Fast forward to now. Clara recently got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 30M. I was happy for her at first, though I had some reservations about how Mark treats her. He's sweet most of the time, but has a very controlling streak that became obvious even during the wedding planning. I try to give Clara space and not interfere, but I always offered help when she asked. A few months ago, Clara asked me if I could help with the wedding preparations. She specifically mentioned that she wanted a family-style wedding at my house because she loves our backyard and the memories she has there from childhood. My husband, Dan, 34M, and I own a spacious house with a large backyard, and hosting big events is something we're happy to do. I was honored at first. However, a few days later, Clara had a discussion with me. She explained that Mark was very particular about the guest list. He didn't want certain family members there, my parents, for example, because he claims they would be too critical and cause drama. I tried to reason with Clara, pointing out that excluding my parents would hurt me deeply and might cause tension between her and our family. Clara said she understood, but insisted that Mark's comfort was more important for their wedding day. I felt conflicted, but I decided to respect her wishes, thinking maybe it was temporary. As the months went on, Clara started planning more actively. She chose the caterers, the decor, the invitations, and even the seating arrangements. Every time I offered help, she would brush it off or redirect me to Mark. It became clear that the wedding was becoming more about what Mark wanted than what Clara or her family wanted. The breaking point came a few weeks ago. Clara asked if we could move the wedding to a local country club because Mark didn't like the idea of using someone's private property. She claimed it was easier for logistics. I agreed, thinking it was a minor adjustment. Then came the invitation list. Clara had excluded my parents, my in-laws, and even a few close friends of mine who I thought were practically family. She also informed me that she had arranged for the wedding photographer to arrive earlier than I had planned, meaning we would have to vacate my house on very short notice if she still insisted on using it for a pre-wedding shoot. I tried to have a calm conversation with her. I explained that my parents are elderly, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime event. I told her I understood wanting to respect Mark's wishes, but felt that completely excluding my family was unreasonable. Clara became defensive, accusing me of trying to control her wedding and make it about me. She said that if I wasn't comfortable with the arrangements, I didn't have to be involved at all. That night, I spoke to Dan, and we both agreed that hosting the wedding under these conditions would be impossible. It would create tension not only between Clara and me, but also between my parents and Mark. Dan suggested that we politely decline hosting the wedding altogether. The next day, I called Clara and told her that we could not host the wedding at our house, given her insistence on excluding my parents and the unreasonable demands about timing and logistics. I emphasized that I still loved her and wanted to support her, but I could not compromise my family's inclusion and comfort. Clara was furious. She accused me of sabotaging her wedding, said I was being selfish, and claimed that Dan and I were trying to manipulate her into changing her plans. She called my parents to complain as well, painting me as the villain. My parents were upset, but they understood my perspective. They agreed that excluding family from such an important event was hurtful and unfair. Some mutual friends have reached out, and the opinions are divided. Some say I should have put aside my feelings for the sake of my sister's happiness. Others argue that hosting a wedding under those conditions would have been emotionally damaging and that Clara's decision to prioritize Mark over her family shows a lack of consideration. Since then, Clara has gone no contact with me. She is now hosting the wedding at a rented venue and reportedly still excluding our parents and a few close friends. I feel conflicted. Part of me feels guilty because it has escalated into a full-blown family drama. Another part of me feels justified because I drew a line regarding my family's involvement in our home, which I believe is reasonable. I also can't help but notice a pattern. Clara tends to prioritize Mark's comfort over everyone else's, and I fear that this is only the beginning of more strained family interactions. I haven't spoken to her since we declined hosting the wedding, and I don't know if I will ever be able to repair our relationship. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after she excluded my family? AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kids after what happened last year. This all started last year when my sister, Emma, got promoted and her job suddenly became incredibly demanding. She has 2 kids, a 7-year-old boy named Liam and a 4-year-old girl named Sophie. For context, I am 28, single, and live alone in a small apartment about 30 minutes away from her house. I have a good relationship with her and the kids, but I've never been a full-time caregiver. I work full-time and also attend night classes, so my schedule is tight. Last summer, Emma asked me to watch Liam and Sophie for a week while she was traveling for work. I agreed reluctantly, thinking it would be manageable since I was off work that week. I knew it would be exhausting, but I wanted to help my sister. The week started fine. We did some crafts, baked cookies, and even went to a local park. But by day 3, things started to unravel. Liam, who is extremely stubborn, refused to eat most of the meals I made. He would throw tantrums at bedtime, screaming for his mom, and nothing I did would calm him down. Sophie, who is usually sweet, started to mimic Liam's tantrums. I was exhausted, barely sleeping, and stressed out. I tried calling Emma multiple times to ask for advice, but she kept saying she was busy with meetings and conferences. She didn't offer any backup plan or check in with me in a meaningful way. On the 4th day, the situation reached a breaking point. Liam had a full-blown meltdown at the park, running into the street after another child accidentally knocked his toy over. I managed to grab him in time, but I was shaking and horrified. Later that evening, Sophie spilled juice all over my new couch, and Liam refused to apologize or clean it up. I lost my temper for the first time in my life and yelled at both of them, which I immediately regretted. Emma returned that weekend and seemed completely oblivious to how stressful the week had been for me. Instead of thanking me, she criticized how I handled bedtime, saying I shouldn't have let Liam watch TV to calm down and that I didn't make healthy enough meals. I tried explaining how overwhelmed I felt, but she brushed it off, saying I was overreacting and needed more patience. I felt hurt and unsupported. After that week, I decided I couldn't take care of her kids full-time or even for extended periods anymore. I told her I could babysit occasionally for a few hours if I planned ahead, but I couldn't commit to long stretches. Emma was furious. She accused me of being selfish, saying I didn't love her kids enough to step up. She argued that since I live alone, I have more free time than she does, and therefore I should help more. I tried to explain that working full-time and attending school isn't free time, but she dismissed it. Things escalated further when she started guilt-tripping me in front of family members. At a family dinner, she said, if only my sister cared about me or my kids, she would help more. But I guess her life is more important. Everyone looked at me awkwardly, and I felt trapped defending myself. I didn't want to start a big argument in front of everyone, so I just kept quiet, but inside I was fuming. I've since stuck to my boundaries, and Emma has cooled down a bit, but tension remains. She sometimes makes passive-aggressive comments like, I guess I'll have to figure out how to manage without help, and sighs loudly when we talk about her kids. My parents have tried to mediate, saying that I should help more because family sticks together, but they also acknowledge that the week I spent babysitting was extremely difficult. Recently, Emma asked me to watch the kids again for a week because she has to attend a conference out of town. I flat out refused, saying I can't handle it. She accused me of abandoning her and her kids, calling me irresponsible and selfish. I tried to explain that my decision isn't about them personally, but about my capacity and mental health. She replied that I should figure out how to make it work, implying that I was being lazy. This has put a serious strain on our relationship. I love my niece and nephew, but the thought of spending a week caring for them again makes me anxious and resentful. I've offered to babysit for a few hours or a day at most, but she says that's not enough. I feel guilty for setting boundaries, but I also feel that she doesn't respect my limits or acknowledge the reality of what it takes to care for her kids properly. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kids for extended periods after the week from hell last year. I feel like I'm just protecting my mental health, but she insists I'm being selfish and abandoning the family. I don't want to destroy our relationship, but I also can't sacrifice my sanity. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house after she insisted on a fairy tale theme that would ruin my property. I, 34F, have lived in my current home for about 7 years. It's a modest 3-bedroom house, but it's been my pride and joy. I've renovated it slowly over time, built a garden I adore, and I've always kept it clean and organized. I'm very particular about my space, and I like to feel comfortable in my own home without having to constantly clean up or worry about damage. My younger sister, Emma, 29F, recently got engaged. From the moment she announced it, she started talking nonstop about her dream wedding. She has always had very strong opinions and tends to go overboard with planning, but I try to be supportive. She eventually told me she wanted to have the ceremony at my house. I was taken aback. She said she envisioned a whimsical fairy tale garden wedding, and that my backyard would be perfect for it. I reminded her that my garden is not huge and that it isn't designed for large gatherings. It has delicate flowers, raised beds, and a pond that I spent years cultivating. She insisted that it would be amazing and that she would handle everything. I tried to reason with her. I explained that my space was not suitable for a wedding, that it would likely damage the property, and that I wasn't comfortable with hosting so many people in my home. She told me that I was being selfish and that it would be a once-in-a-lifetime event that she really wanted me to be a part of. She also mentioned that if I didn't agree, she would consider renting a venue, but that she really wanted it at home because it feels more personal. Eventually, I firmly said no. I told her I wasn't willing to risk my home or garden for an event of that size. I also mentioned that I have a small dog who gets anxious around strangers and that the stress of hosting would likely make me miserable. She reacted very negatively. She started texting me constantly, saying that I didn't care about her happiness, that I was being a bad sister, and that I was ruining her dream. She even brought up how I didn't support her wedding planning financially, which isn't something I had ever promised to do. Over the next few weeks, Emma went on to involve other family members. She told my parents I was being unreasonable, and they told me I should consider her feelings and that maybe I could compromise. I offered a compromise. I could host a small rehearsal dinner in my home for immediate family, or I could help her find a venue and assist with decoration ideas. She refused both options and said it wouldn't be the same. The tension escalated when she started posting about her wedding plans on social media, implying that I was the difficult sister who wouldn't let her dream happen. Some mutual friends reached out to me privately, saying they didn't understand why I was being so rigid. I explained my concerns about space, property damage, and personal comfort, but a few of them seemed to think I was overreacting. At this point, my sister stopped speaking to me for a few days. When she finally came back around, she demanded I attend her bridal shower at a venue she had rented, even though she had initially wanted everything in my house. I agreed, but she was noticeably cold and passive-aggressive. She kept making comments about how it would have been so much prettier in the backyard, which felt like a constant jab at me. I also want to add that my backyard isn't suitable for large-scale decoration or tents. The uneven ground, pond, and carefully arranged plants make it risky to accommodate dozens of people. I work hard to maintain the garden in my home, and I was concerned that hosting the wedding would not only damage it, but also make me feel resentful and stressed during what should be a happy family occasion. On the day she sent me the wedding invitation, I saw that she had chosen a completely different venue, and I felt relieved. I RSVP'd and planned to go, hoping to mend things between us. When I mentioned I was looking forward to seeing her and that I hoped we could enjoy the day together, she responded coldly, saying, "It's fine you didn't host, just don't ruin the photos with your negative energy." I was hurt and confused because all I had tried to do was protect my home while still supporting her in other ways. Since then, our relationship has been strained. Family gatherings are awkward, and my parents have continued to subtly suggest that I owe her something for not letting her have a wedding at my house. I feel torn because I love my sister and want to support her, but I also feel that I set a reasonable boundary. My home is my sanctuary, and I don't think hosting a large event in a space that isn't equipped for it is unreasonable. I guess my question is, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my home, even though she wanted it badly, and tried to involve family pressure? I've tried to compromise, and I've helped in other ways, but she sees it as a personal rejection, and now I'm worried that this might permanently damage our relationship. I would like honest opinions because I genuinely feel like I did the right thing for both myself and my property, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe I overreacted or should have done more to accommodate her wishes. The situation has been ongoing for months, and the tension is still palpable. I want to support her, but I also need to protect my own well-being. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she called me out in front of everyone. 29F, come from a fairly tight-knit family, and we've always had the usual sibling dynamics. My younger sister, Lily, 26F, has always been a bit more dramatic than the rest of us, and honestly, I've always tried to stay out of the chaos. Growing up, she had this way of turning small things into major family crises, but I've mostly learned to ignore it. Our parents are very involved in our lives, and they tend to enable her when she's upset, which has caused tension between me and them over the years. So, recently Lily got engaged. Her fiancé, Mark, is a sweet guy and genuinely seems to make her happy, so I was genuinely excited for her. From the beginning, she wanted me to help with her wedding planning. I've never been great with big event planning. I prefer smaller gatherings or casual events, but I agreed to help in the limited capacity I could, mostly with ideas, some vendor recommendations, and giving opinions on dresses and decorations. I thought this was fair, considering I work full-time and live about an hour away from our parents' house. Things started to get stressful quickly. Lily had very specific ideas about the wedding, and any suggestion I made that didn't align with her vision seemed to upset her. For example, she insisted on having a very traditional, fancy wedding with over-the-top decorations. I suggested a few ways to simplify things or cut costs, and she completely shut down my suggestions, telling me I just didn't understand her vision. That was fine, I didn't push it. The bigger problem came with the bridal party. I have a few close friends, but I'm not very social outside of work, so the bridal party she wanted me in was bigger than I expected. When I asked her about responsibilities like dress fittings, rehearsal attendance, and bachelorette planning, she brushed it off with "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." I thought that meant we'd divide things reasonably, but she ended up assuming I would take on the bulk of planning for her bachelorette and coordinate everyone for the rehearsal dinner. I tried to explain I couldn't manage that much, but she got upset, saying I was being lazy and unsupportive. Then came the last straw. 2 weeks before the wedding, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. Lily started ranting about how stressful wedding planning had been and how no one seemed to be helping her enough. In front of all of our extended family, she turned to me and said, "Honestly, I don't even know why I asked you to be involved. You're completely useless. If anyone else had a sister who actually cared, they'd be helping with everything, not just sitting around and giving opinions." I was shocked and embarrassed. I tried to defend myself calmly, saying I had been helping as much as I could, and that planning a wedding isn't a one-person job, but she kept interrupting and insisting I was being selfish. After that night, I told her I couldn't continue helping with the wedding. I explained I didn't want to cause more stress or arguments, and that it would be better for everyone if I stepped back. She got furious and accused me of abandoning her and not being family. Our parents were upset too, saying I should have swallowed my feelings for the sake of family harmony. I honestly felt like I had done enough, and that her public humiliation of me was unfair. I also explained to my parents that I was willing to attend the wedding and support her in ways that were reasonable, but I could not take on the huge responsibilities she assumed I would. She's barely spoken to me since that night, and now I'm being told I should apologize for ruining her engagement experience. I feel like I was set up to fail from the start, and I'm hurt that she chose to call me out publicly rather than address her frustrations privately. At the same time, I know weddings are stressful, and maybe I could have handled things differently to avoid escalating the situation. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to continue helping my sister with her wedding after she called me out in front of everyone. Here's some additional context. I did attend the dress fittings and offered opinions when asked. I helped her find a few vendors, and I was in charge of creating a small playlist for the reception. I didn't refuse all help, I just didn't take over large-scale planning. She has plenty of other bridesmaids and family members who could have shared the workload, but she seemed to assume I would handle most of it. I also made it clear multiple times that my schedule was tight and that I couldn't commit to constant coordination. The last conversation we had was a brief text from her saying, "I guess you just don't care enough to be my sister." I haven't responded because I'm not sure there's anything I can say that would change her mind at this point. I'm struggling with feeling guilty, especially since our family is divided now. Some of them think I overreacted, while others say I did nothing wrong and shouldn't let her disrespect me. Has anyone dealt with something similar, where a sibling expected too much help and then turned the blame on you? I feel stuck between wanting to support her as my sister and standing up for my own boundaries. I really want to avoid more family drama, but I also don't want to be treated like I'm at fault when I've clearly communicated my limits. I know weddings can be a huge emotional roller coaster, but I don't think that gives anyone the right to publicly shame a family member for simply setting boundaries. I still plan on attending the wedding, but I'm considering sitting out of all pre-wedding events to avoid more conflicts. I'm worried that will make her even angrier, but I feel like I need to protect my mental health. So, AITA for setting boundaries and refusing to be the main planner for my sister's wedding after she publicly shamed me? Or should I just push through the discomfort to avoid family conflict? AITA for confronting my sister about her behavior at our family reunion and causing a huge rift that may be permanent? I, 32F, have always considered myself close to my family, especially my sister, Claire, 35F. We grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, and our parents instilled in us the idea that family comes first. Over the years, Claire and I have had our ups and downs, but I never thought anything we disagreed on would escalate into a long-lasting issue. That changed at our annual family reunion last month. Our family reunion has always been a big deal. We rent a large cabin by the lake, invite extended family from all over, and spend a weekend cooking, playing games, and catching up. This year, my parents asked me to help organize because they were busy with work and health issues. I agreed, thinking it would be a fun way to reconnect with everyone and show them I could handle the logistics. Everything was going smoothly until the evening of the first day. We had a big dinner, and everyone was sitting around the table. Claire arrived later than expected with her husband, Mark, 36M, and their 2 kids, ages 5 and 7. From the moment she walked in, she started complaining about the food and the way I had arranged the seating. She made comments like, "Oh, I guess we're just doing it the old-fashioned way again, and I would have done it differently, obviously, but whatever." I tried to brush it off, but it kept escalating. After dinner, we all moved to the living room for games. Claire immediately started monopolizing the conversation, interrupting others, and correcting anyone who disagreed with her. She criticized my cousin Sarah's choice of board game, mocked my uncle for a joke, and even whispered rude comments about my parents' home setup to Mark. I could feel tension building, but I kept trying to stay calm, thinking it was just her being stressed. The breaking point came when we decided to play charades. Claire insisted on taking the first turn and immediately started making personal jokes about family members. At one point, she made a joke about my father's health issues in front of everyone. I was stunned and asked her to stop, quietly at first, then a bit more firmly when she ignored me. She laughed it off and said, "Relax, it's just a joke. You're too sensitive." That's when I snapped. I stood up, raised my voice slightly, and told her that her behavior was completely unacceptable and that she had been rude to almost everyone all evening. I mentioned the comments about our parents, the way she was constantly criticizing people, and how it was making the reunion miserable for everyone. Some family members tried to intervene, but I insisted that it needed to be addressed. Claire shouted back, calling me controlling, overreacting, and dramatic. The argument quickly escalated into a full-blown shouting match. By the end of it, Claire stormed out with her family. My parents were furious, both at her and at me, saying that I should have handled it differently. Some relatives were sympathetic, while others thought I embarrassed Claire unnecessarily. Over the next few days, the atmosphere was tense. Claire refused to speak to me, and Mark made passive-aggressive comments about how family dynamics should be more relaxed. After the reunion, I tried reaching out to Claire via text and phone, apologizing for raising my voice, but also explaining why I confronted her. I told her I wasn't trying to ruin her fun, but that her behavior was hurtful and disrespectful. She responded briefly, saying she didn't want to discuss it and that I was exaggerating. My parents are upset with both of us, saying we've caused a rift in the family. The issue is that I genuinely believe I was justified. I didn't go out of my way to humiliate Claire. I simply called out repeated rude behavior that was affecting everyone. However, some relatives have told me that family reunions are supposed to be relaxed, that I should have let things slide, and that confronting Claire in front of everyone was harsh. I also know that Claire tends to feel attacked easily, and I understand that publicly confronting someone can hurt their feelings. Now, weeks later, my relationship with Claire is strained. She hasn't spoken to me directly, though she communicates indirectly through Mark at family events. My parents are disappointed, saying I should have handled things privately. I feel frustrated because I don't want to pretend her behavior was okay, and I don't want future reunions to be sabotaged by the same patterns. On the other hand, I also feel guilty that the confrontation may have permanently damaged my relationship with my sister. So, Reddit AITA for confronting my sister at the family reunion, even though it caused a huge rift, or should I have just stayed silent despite the behavior I found unacceptable? AITA, so this is going to be a long one, and I really need an outside perspective because I feel like I might be overreacting, but my family has made me question myself completely. I'm 29, female, and I've been dating my boyfriend, Mark, for 4 years. We live together in a small apartment in the city, and while our relationship is mostly great, there's been a long-standing tension between me and his family. I didn't think it would ever escalate to the point it has, but recently, things have gotten really bad. Mark comes from a very tight-knit, traditional family. His parents, especially his mother, are very controlling and have a strong idea of how things should be done in a relationship. I've always felt like I had to walk on eggshells around them, but I tried my best to be respectful and accommodating. That all changed a few months ago when Mark and I started talking about getting married. I had some hesitations about the wedding plans his family was pushing for, and that's when the tension really flared up. To give some context, Mark's parents want a very large, formal wedding in their hometown, which is several hours away from where we live. They have invited literally everyone they know, including distant relatives, neighbors, and coworkers. I had always envisioned something smaller and more personal, closer to where we live, but I didn't think it would be a huge deal. I tried explaining this to Mark, but he keeps insisting that we owe it to his family because they're paying for most of the wedding. I was uncomfortable with the idea of being forced into a wedding that felt more like a spectacle for his parents than a celebration of our relationship. The tipping point came a few weeks ago when we had a meeting with his parents to go over the guest list and other plans. I tried to stay calm, but as soon as I voiced my concerns about having the wedding closer to home and keeping it smaller, his mother completely lost it. She started yelling at me, saying that I was selfish and ruining everything, and that I didn't understand how family works. Mark tried to intervene, but his father just shrugged and said I needed to learn my place. I was stunned and honestly hurt. I left the meeting early, telling Mark I couldn't be around that environment. After that, Mark told me I was being dramatic and that I needed to respect his parents' wishes. I explained that I wasn't trying to disrespect them. I just wanted our wedding to reflect us, not just their idea of a perfect event. Mark got defensive and said that I was being ungrateful because they were offering to pay. We argued for hours, and I finally told him that I couldn't agree to a wedding that made me feel like I had no say in it. Things got worse after this. Mark started spending more time with his family, leaving me out of conversations and decisions. His mother began sending me passive-aggressive texts about how I should be more cooperative and how family is everything. She even told me that if I didn't follow their plans, Mark might reconsider our relationship because I was too difficult. I try to set boundaries, but it feels like every time I do, they push back harder. The breaking point came last weekend. Mark and I had agreed to spend a quiet evening at home together, just the two of us. His parents called and invited him to a family emergency dinner. When I asked him what the emergency was, he couldn't give a clear answer, and I realized this was just another attempt to pull him away from me. I told him I didn't feel comfortable being ignored and that we should stick to our plans, but he went anyway. While he was gone, his mother called me multiple times, leaving messages that I was being unreasonable and driving a wedge between them. I didn't answer, and I honestly felt relieved when it was over. After that weekend, I started reconsidering our relationship. I love Mark, but I feel like he prioritizes his parents over me, and I don't know if he'll ever stand up to them. I also can't shake the feeling that they see me as an outsider who needs to be tamed to fit their expectations. I brought up these concerns to Mark, and he got defensive again, saying that I was attacking his family and that I should learn to compromise. I tried explaining that compromise is one thing, but being pressured and emotionally manipulated is another. He said I was overreacting and that all families have tensions. The thing is, my own family has been supportive and they understand that I feel uncomfortable. But Mark's family has made me feel like I'm wrong for wanting a wedding that feels like ours and for wanting my partner to support me when his family is being overbearing. I've started wondering if I'm asking for too much or if I'm being selfish for wanting my own voice heard in a situation that directly affects me. I've tried to communicate calmly, compromise where I can, and set boundaries, but it seems like nothing I do is enough. Mark has started acting distant, and I feel like I'm being blamed for ruining the relationship when, in reality, I'm just trying to protect myself from being walked over. I don't want to fight forever, but I also don't want to lose myself in someone else's family expectations. So here I am, completely confused and drained. I need to know, AITA for refusing to agree to a wedding that feels like it's controlled by Mark's parents? Am I wrong for wanting my partner to stand by me against unreasonable family pressure? Or am I truly being selfish and dramatic? I'm desperate for some clarity because, from the outside, I can't tell if I'm being stubborn or if I'm being reasonable. Every time I bring it up, I'm accused of overreacting, and I start doubting myself. I just want a fair and loving partnership, and I feel like I might be losing that. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she insulted my family. So, this is a long one, and it's been bothering me for months. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, who has always had a complicated relationship with our family. Growing up, she was always the golden child in our parents' eyes, while I was the responsible one who didn't get as much attention. That said, we were close as teenagers, but things have become tense over the years. I own a decent-sized house in a suburban area. I bought it 5 years ago after saving for years and worked extremely hard to make a home. I've always taken pride in hosting family events and holidays here, and I genuinely enjoy entertaining. My sister, on the other hand, rents a small apartment in the city and has never really had the space or the means to host big events. When she got engaged last year, she initially hinted that she wanted to host the wedding at my house. I told her I'd think about it, but I didn't commit because a wedding is a huge event, and I wanted to consider the logistics, costs, and the impact on my home. Over the next few months, Emily started making subtle jabs at my house. She'd say things like, "Your backyard is cute, but it's so small. It won't really feel like a proper wedding." Or, "Are you sure your house can handle that many people? It's a nice house, but a wedding is a lot of work." At first, I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just excited about her wedding plans. Then she started criticizing my choices in the house, like the furniture, the paint colors, and even my landscaping, saying things like, "Why would you pick such boring colors?" Or, "Your backyard is so plain. I can't imagine anyone enjoying themselves there." I tried to ignore it, but it definitely hurt because I've spent years building this home and making it a place I love. About 3 months ago, Emily brought up the wedding again. She asked if she could officially use my house, and I said I needed some time to think about it. She started putting pressure on me, saying things like, "Other people would be honored to have their wedding at your place, and it would be a shame if you refused. People would talk." I told her I was still considering it, but wanted to discuss details first. I made it clear that hosting a wedding in a private home isn't just about space. It involves liability, insurance, and a lot of personal disruption. Then, last month, during a family dinner, she crossed a line. She criticized my parents in front of everyone, saying that they were unfair for favoring me because of my house and my career. She also made comments implying that I was selfish for not agreeing to host the wedding immediately. I tried to calmly explain that hosting a wedding is a big commitment and that I needed time to think, but she didn't listen. She ended up saying, "If you loved me, you'd just let me have it. Clearly, you care more about your house than your family." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about her wedding. It was about her trying to manipulate me into giving her what she wanted while putting down my family and my home. After that dinner, I had a long talk with my parents. They agreed that Emily's behavior was inappropriate, and my mom reminded me that my home is mine and I don't owe anyone a wedding venue. I finally decided to tell Emily that I couldn't host the wedding. I explained that my house isn't suitable for a large-scale event, that I couldn't take on the stress and responsibility, and that I felt disrespected by the way she had spoken about me and our family. I offered to help in other ways, like recommending venues or helping with planning, but she took it very badly. Emily reacted by going on social media and posting a long story about how her sister was cold and selfish for refusing to let her have her dream wedding. She even implied that I was trying to humiliate her in front of our family. Some distant relatives have reached out to me privately, expressing that they feel torn. My parents support me, but my sister's friends and some extended family members are siding with her. Emily has been avoiding me entirely, and our communication has dropped to almost nothing. Now, I'm feeling a mix of guilt, frustration, and anger. Part of me wonders if I overreacted or if I should have tried harder to accommodate her. On the other hand, I feel like I have every right to refuse. My home is my sanctuary, and I shouldn't have to compromise it for someone who doesn't seem to respect me or my family. The fact that she publicly criticized me has made me even more protective of my boundaries. The tension between us has escalated to the point where my parents are worried about long-term damage to our relationship. They've asked me to consider whether there's a way to make peace, but I honestly feel like Emily crossed a line that shouldn't be crossed, and that refusing to host the wedding was necessary for my own mental well-being and to maintain my boundaries. So here I am, still stuck in this situation. AITA for refusing to let my sister use my house for her wedding after she insulted my family and my home. The entire situation has made me rethink how much of myself I owe to her or anyone else. And I'm genuinely conflicted because I love my sister, but also can't ignore the way she treated me and my family. I've tried to be fair and supportive in other ways, but it seems like nothing is enough for her. I'm not trying to ruin her wedding or make her miserable, but I also refuse to let her disrespect me and my home in this way. I'm hoping for honest perspectives on whether I was justified in saying no, or if I should try harder to accommodate her wishes despite her past behavior. Character count: 6,502. Do you want me to create an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters, expanding family dynamics and the aftermath? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.